Hello everyone, this is Tribecast episode 11 and my name is Marina. This week I have prepared for you 3 interviews. First, Victor Isaksen talked to me about the differences between Finnish and Swedish ecosystem and the new trend of bioeconomics in the startups. Then Tapio Siik explained to me what kind of projects and changes are ongoing in the Tampere startup ecosystem. And finally, Sebastian Ern opened up about growth hacking and whether it is better to work in a huge corporation or to start up your own business. I found those talks really interesting, and now let's check whether you would enjoy them. And this week we're having a guest from abroad. So hello, Victor, and please tell our listeners a few things about what do you do.
Hello everyone, my name is Victor Isaksen. I'm from Sweden. I'm responsible for Sting Bioeconomy, which is a virtual incubator based in Karlstad in Sweden. And we work with the startups all over the world in the bioeconomy area.
Okay, what brought you to Finland?
I'm here speaking at a conference tomorrow called BSR Stars, and I wanted to see if there were any cool places that worked with the startups, and happily I found that Tribe Tampere looks very promising, so I'm here to meet you.
Okay, so tell us a few things more about your experience about Tribe Tampere.
Yeah, I just came last night, so I don't know that much yet, but Vesa-Matti, who's responsible here, has taught me a lot about what you're doing and your ambitions, and I've been looking at the facilities, and I'm very inspired.
So let's hope that we'll find some points of cooperation later on. What do you think nowadays stops early stage startups from becoming big and successful?
I think some companies are too afraid to meet the customers before they are ready for action. Our way of looking at it is that one should meet a potential customer as early as possible and ask a question about if I had a product or if I had a service that worked like this, would it be possible for you to be a customer? If the customer then says, yes, this is interesting, under an NDA, of course, I would try to get a letter of intent from the customer as early as possible. I think most startups wait too long before they actually meet a promising customer.
Okay. And do you think that Nordic way of doing a startup differs from the world outside?
Yes, I think a bit. I think that we are used to helping each other in many directions, and I also think that we are used to working internationally. So, and we're not afraid of trying stuff outside the borders, and I think that's one of the key success factors in growth with a startup is that you shouldn't see any borders. You don't have to test anything locally if the customer is willing to try it somewhere else faster. Mm-hmm. So be bold, go out there and test your stuff as soon as possible, even if you don't have the product or the service ready.
And what about the famous connection between Nordic people and nature? Do you think that this also has some kind of vibe for a startup world?
Especially now. I would say just 2-3 years ago, there was not a big demand for natural products at all. Mm-hmm. But now the demand is incredibly big. And if you have ideas, if you have potential products which has natural resources as the main source, the market has never been bigger. And the money is also there, because many entrepreneurs have done exits in other areas, and they're now looking to be part of saving the planet. So they want to use their money into greener startups. So there certainly is a great opportunity using nature as the main source for your new startups.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Victor. And probably to wrap our interview up, can you tell our listeners a few things about yourself, like what kind of companies you worked for, maybe some other kind of background?
Sure. I am an IT and telecom man, and I've worked with a number of companies that have been spun off from bigger areas. One of our companies called iLevo was the first to do communication on power lines. Another company called Citivo was the first to actually use graphics on both Nokia and Ericsson phones.
Ooh.
And my latest company is called Sound Dimension. And it's a stackable speaker system where you have small speakers, you stack them together, and the more you stack, the better the sound gets. They are AI-based, and they're fun to use. But since last spring, 2018, I have focused only on bioeconomy. So now I work with companies that from lignin, which is a byproduct from the forest, we make graphene, which is a pretty cool material. We use lignin to make plastics. We have one company which is very cool called Melker, which actually 3D prints kayaks, paddleboards, skateboards from sawdust. And most recent company is a company that makes building material out of paper, which actually becomes stronger than ordinary wood. So it's a mixture, but it's great fun.
Okay, so probably if there is a biotechnology interested or already working in that sphere, a startup from Tribe Network or just from Tampere, they should contact you at some point and figure out.
Absolutely, they should contact us as soon as possible. So
contact Victor, and we are good for today. Thank you very much for taking time for this interview, and I hope you will become one of our listeners of our podcast, and see you in stream in October.
Thank you very much.
Today we're having in the studio Tapio Siik. Hello, Tapio. Thanks very much for coming. And first things first, please tell us a few things about your background.
Thank you, first of all, to have me here. My background really is pretty much related and connected to Tampere regions. I've done my studies here, graduated in Hervanta way back when on software engineering and computer science, and then stayed pretty much in the area for about 20 years, with the exception of spending 6-7 years abroad in Holland and in the US as well. I'm an engineer as education, as it became clear, but I've really done all kinds of things in my life, mainly on the private sector, but also on the academia and public side. So on the private sector, I've been working with big corporates like ABB and then a couple of American software companies. And then most of my professional life, I've been with Nokia. So I spent in total about 17 years with Nokia. And I went through there pretty much all the business units besides the research center. In Nokia, the big part of my work there was to be involved with the startup community. So I was in the Nokia venturing organization from day one and did a couple internal startups in Nokia. And then the last 7-8 years when I was in Nokia, I was involved with the venture capital arm in Nokia. So in Nokia Venture Partners, and I was also in the founding team for Nokia Growth Partners, which meant that I was investing globally in early and mid-stage startups. So as an engineer, I ended up being a VC, which was not exactly, of course, in the career plans in the early days. But I made it out of there. I left Nokia 2009, and then I was running my own business for a couple years there, and ended up then in Aalto University 7-8 years ago. Went there to work on a project, but I ended up being the head of the Center for Entrepreneurship in Aalto, which at the time was getting the startup sauna activities up and all the student entrepreneurship issues. So I was like the university department over the student activities in the entrepreneurship area. I've been there since until now, the end of February, and I started here now, then beginning of March. And my project here is to set up the new startup house here in Tampere, which is nearby from this Tribe building at the moment.
Okay, you have a really diverse background, and what you have just told us completely reshaped my original plan for the interview. Yeah, I should say that I love improvising, so let's do that. Let's probably talk a bit more about Startup House. Any kind of insider information you can share with us?
I think quite a lot of the information has been already out there on the big picture. So the decision was made last fall by the city that when the premises are freed after Tredu leaves the building, they decided that they want to make use of the space and the building for the entrepreneurship support and startup support. So the project has been sort of in preparation since last fall, and there are already quite a lot of activities that are going on. And I now joined a little bit of a moving train here. I've been trying to catch up with all the different things that are already going on, and I've been meeting all kinds of stakeholders who are interested about the house, and also those who I think they should be interested as well. So currently we are at the stage where Tredu is still using the premises. They will be more or less out of the building by the end of May, which means that then during the summer we have time to do some renovation work, making the building ready for the use. And then the target at the moment is that we should have the first teams and communities to moving in there probably in September or October timeframe. And then by the end of the year, it should be really in good speed there. So that's like the big picture at the moment.
Okay. Can we invite some Tampere-located startups to join us in this new startup house, or will it be only the premises for the organizations?
The approach we and I have taken is that we are really going forward with the communities first. So I've been talking a lot with Tribe and Game Hub and Startup Hub and all these communities which have been really growing in the last couple of years here in Tampere. The community angle is very strong in everything what we are planning to do in the building. We will have as diverse, I would say, set of operators or parties in the house, meaning that there will be activities coming from the university also located there. There will be, of course, these accelerator programs which are now already ongoing, and there are maybe a couple of new ones coming up as well. It's a place where basically any startup can come and sort of have their own space, or they can sort of come in through the community or some other ways as well.
You mentioned that you have an experience of working with students. In your opinion, if we want more startups in Tampere or in Finland in general, shall we inspire students to start their own startups while they're students? Shall we wait until they graduate? Shall we inspire high school children to start their own businesses, like work a bit and then get a higher education? How should these aspects combine?
I think we need all of those. So I don't see that they are by any means sort of exclusive. It would be very hard to put even like a priority on those, because the entrepreneurship is a mindset, and it's something that the earlier you start to sort of embrace that mindset, the more likely it is that you will at least try to be an entrepreneur and run your own business. It's something that it's not for everyone, and that's also good to understand. But you never should be afraid of trying it out and finding it that, okay, yeah, well, I like this or I don't. And it's also a good result that you find out that, well, you are not cut for the startup life, and then you'll just do something else which is better suited for you.
Do you generally think that it's easy to start a business of your own nowadays in Finland?
Technically, yes. I would say setting up a company is not that complicated, but the big issue, of course, as with any startup, is that, okay, do you really have a good business idea which you start to work on? If you have that, then let's say the technicalities are not that big of a problem in Finland at the moment. Then the main problem most likely is that after you've come up with the idea is then to find a team to work with you and sort of get the thing going so that the team also sort of makes the commitment to push it forward as much as possible.
I believe that both teams and ideas can be born during networking, and networking usually happens at some big projects. As a project lead of Business Tampere, could you please tell a few words about some current projects you're involved in nowadays?
Regarding the startup area, of course, we have a team of 3-4 people in Business Tampere working very closely all the time with startup scene or the entrepreneurship scene here in Tampere. We have these monthly events where we have investors and startups telling their stories. We just started the Nordic Business School Accelerator program a couple of weeks ago. We are currently in basically deciding a new accelerator